everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tyler Werner Show, Tuesday afternoon podcast. And, well, I guess as far as the Flyers are concerned, another loss last night. As a matter of fact, hold on, let me clear my throat a little bit here, and I guess loosen up my lips a little bit to play this. Not that I'm actually playing that on trumpet, but you get the point. Flyers lose 6-1 last night and are down 3-0 against the Washington Capitals. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, we'll call it a series. I think we can call it a series, ladies and gentlemen. Look, the Flyers, they made the playoffs against all odds in a sense. And I guess in some regards that was an accomplishment. They showed some strides. But they're showing, I guess, how far off, at least right now, at this point, in the Dave Hackstall / Ron Hextall era of the Philadelphia Flyers. They're showing how far they are from a Washington Capitals level of skill, talent, you name it. I professed before the series began that the Flyers, I mean, they had a chance to make this series interesting, and, well, I guess that ship is clearly sailed at this point.
I agree.
And if they have, tomorrow at the Wells Fargo Center for Game 4, I mean, I don't even know what they have left. It's amazing that they come out and they get 9 penalties. 9 penalties at their home ice last night and lose 6-1. 9 where you're spending in some way like over a third of the game down a man or more. You can't. I'm sorry. I mean, this series, whether it was game 1, where Wayne Simmons takes an unnecessary penalty, I don't care what people say. Simmons takes, one of those situations where, Wayne Simmons, he's sticking up for his player. That's what you're supposed to do. No. That's just typical goon mentality out right there that many hockey fans, for whatever silly reason, seem to have, where it doesn't equate to winning. In fact, more often than not, it equates to you taking a penalty when you could either be up a man and get a power play, which, well, then again, the Flyers have been 0 for however many this series. So maybe not like that means a whole lot, but at least in the case of these last 3 games. But it can also put you down a man when you really can't afford to be down a man. And sure enough, Washington has been like over 50% on their power plays. So you can't. I don't care. Like this whole mentality where your top goal scorer, Wayne Simmons, has to take a stupid penalty that is just unnecessary. It's one of these things where you have to let the referees do their job and hope that they do them right. All right? I mean, this takes me back to one of my early years in college, like a course called Interpersonal Relations, a little lesson where the professor, a perfect illustration, I don't even know which players it was or which teams, but it was an incident in the NBA where a brawl kind of ensued or was ensuing, and the one player just kind of puts his hands in the air as if to say, I'm not gonna throw any punches. I'm not gonna sink to any level. I'm not gonna get fouled or suspended or whatever. I'm going to take the higher ground, the higher road here, the high road, however you want to word it. I'm not going to stoop to that level. And that's what Wayne Simmons needs to do in that situation. And this Flyer player, and that Flyer player, and this and that situation. Not stoop to the same level and take a stupid penalty that you don't need to take. Where if you just don't react, yeah, you might, maybe you take an unnecessary shot or whatever. I mean, yeah, maybe you can defend yourself, clinch a little bit, like it's a round of boxing or something. But you don't throw punches. You don't. Two wrongs don't make a right. I guess that's the most cliche but accurate way to say it. You just don't do it. You let the refs make the calls that need to be made. And if they don't make them, then the issue becomes, the victim / the team of the victim and the referees. It becomes that. Why didn't you call this on him? That's what really needs to be the issue here. Don't make it easy for the referee to just give you a penalty. And it's things like these that continue to hamper the Flyers.
I agree.
And look, like I said, I did not predict the Flyers to win this series. I predicted to be more competitive, a little more so than it was. But then again, I maybe predicted that the Washington Capitals, that double-edged sword of resting your players for a while, not really having to compete for anything for a few weeks when you had the conference locked up. It's one of those things. But certainly, credit to the Washington Capitals, they're not suffering to any of that. Not at all. In fact, they're, I guess, give them credit. I mean, they're looking like they're for real this year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like this year, instead of going out early in the playoffs like they're known for doing, like they can put together a run perhaps to come out of the Eastern Conference. I'm interested to see what happens between the Penguins and the Rangers, yada yada. But Capitals right now, they're, what can you say? They're 3-0. They could easily wrap up the series tomorrow at the Wells Fargo Center. So, but again, game one, I look at that kind of penalty. I just look at that, and that's where maybe it polarizes other Flyer fans and myself. And people want to say, "Oh, that could have cost him the game. Why shouldn't they?" Well, you know what? Simmons, if he doesn't react like that at all, he just lets the refs do their job, then maybe that doesn't get called in the first place, all right? Sometimes refs, they may miss a call here and there. They may make a stupid, maybe a call that, you didn't have to make that. But this is a scenario where you give the referees some reason to make that call. And the whole theory that, he's sticking up for his player or himself, I'm sorry, it goes out the window. Two wrongs don't make a right. And that's so true in so many things in life here. But in hockey, it has to be that way as well. All right? Goons are going to try to get under your skin. That's sometimes how the game is. And it goes back to the Zach Ronaldo theory, too, as well. How a couple years ago with Mike Missinelli, he was saying how, part of my play is, part of my play style is to, kind of get guys to get penalties, to kind of stir them up a little bit. And, well, dude, guess what? You are the fourth most penalized player in the NHL that season. Thank you very much. Apparently your theory's working out very well. No, you just got to not be a goon sometimes. And I didn't even I didn't even get to game 2, where Mason, of course, he let in that 100-footer or whatever. And then game 3, let's in 6. I mean, I don't know what you can really say there about Mason's play. Although perhaps after game 2, I don't know, you may have wanted to think about freshening up and bringing out Michael Neuvert. Not just because Mason, maybe his play was a little questionable after that game, but the fact that Mason has kind of been carrying the workload almost entirely the last few weeks since Michael Neuvert has been out. Neuvert is fresh. Maybe give, here at home, maybe give the Flyers a little different dynamic coming out. Sometimes that has a way of working in your favor. And, I mean, for what it's worth, Steve Mason lets in 6 goals last night against the Washington Capitals in Game 3.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and I'm sure that was Steve Coates' reaction watching that unfold. Goal after goal. I'm sorry, but the Flyers, when you can only score 1 goal a game in a playoff, so you're not going to be able to do anything. And you know what? Well, Claude Giroux has not been, like a Wayne Simmons getting unnecessary penalties, or, Radko Gudas or Michael Raffle getting some, unfortunate penalties, especially in Game 3 when you chalk up 9 penalties. Giroux's the captain of this team, and he certainly has not looked like a captain. He's been rather quiet on the stat sheet here, and even the last several weeks. And you look at other teams. You look at the Washington. You look at Pittsburgh with Sidney Crosby. You look at teams where their captain shows up or is not quiet on the stat sheet or questionable with his play, or in any sport where clutch players, clutch quarterbacks, whatever, they show up when they're expected to show up. And Claude Giroux has unfortunately been rather quiet this series, and has been, rather sporadic as far as his play is concerned. And this might, irk some Flyer fans, if you happen to be listening, saying this, but I don't know. I just don't. I don't know how. I don't know if there's maybe some kind of trade to be made involving Claude Giroux. If you could get some value. I don't know. Just a thought. But the captain of this team, just rather dissatisfied, I guess. Underwhelmed with Claude Giroux this year. And look, I mean, the Flyers, they've had a decent late part of the season here, but I mean, the Flyers, they've just had nothing in this series. Again, not like they're expected to win it, by myself at least, but I was not expecting them to be this indisciplined, and that they would come out, that Mason's play would drop off how it has, and that the Flyers, like Game 2, getting 42 shots or whatever on goal, and only scoring on one of them. Whereas the Capitals get, 25 or something they score? Maybe not even 20, and they score 4 goals off of them. It's like, imagine if they had 42 shots. I mean, geez, it might have been 7-1, 8-1 at that rate. But anyhow, again, just all these penalties. And it's repeat offenders. I mean, I'm going through a list here. And what's sad about this game last night, the Flyers, they score within a minute of the game even starting. And the place is going crazy with it being the first game since the passing of Ed Snyder. And the Flyers, they come out. They, like, that first goal, and I mean, I don't know. I watched them celebrate, and it's almost as if, like, they were celebrating as if they just won the game. Well, I don't know. It's just the way I looked at it. I mean, it was his first playoff goal, I guess, ever. Michael Raffle, that is. But, I mean, I don't know. It's like they were popping out the champagne a little bit early there on that game. And after that, the Flyers would not score the rest, the other 59 minutes of the game. As a matter of fact, it gets scored on 6 times. And after that, Wayne Simmons, 4:28 into the period. Wayne Simmons holding against Jason Chimera. 11:17 in. Michael Raffle, interference against Mike Richards. Second period, Radko Gudas, rough-in against TJ Oshie. 11:32, Wayne Simmons, guilty again, rough-in against Mike Richards. At the end of the period, Braden Shen, slashing against Tom Wilson. Third period, Mark Streit, 6:04 in, cross-checking against Nicholas Backstrom. Radko Gudas again, only seconds later, 6:35 in, tripping. 12:17 in. Got a laundry list here. Belmar checking from behind. Served by Nick Cousins. This is because Belmar also gets a game misconduct for checking from behind. Radko Gudas, game misconduct. Ryan White, misconduct. Because I guess some kind of brawl had to ensue, and we had to have multiple Flyers get involved and get themselves suspended. A few minutes later, delay of game, served by Sam Gagner. Not even a minute and a half later, Matt Reed slashing. I mean, that third period had train wreck and sour grapes written all over it. As the, I guess the Capitals at that point pretty much had the game locked up. But I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, as a matter of fact, I mean, it was 2-1 heading into the third period. And then the Capitals get an early goal about 2 minutes in. A few minutes later, they get another one. It's 4-1. And then the game just turns into a train wreck. And again, between unnecessary penalties that the Flyers have to take, game misconducts. Oh, what happens? Capitals get a power play goal. After getting a power play goal a little earlier. Oh, and before that penalty 2 minutes into the game, or into the third period, power play goal. Oh, and in the first period, power play goal. 5 power play goals here by the Washington Capitals. And the Flyers, let's just turn this into an all-out brawl. Yeah. We're desperate need of goals here. But we're going to take penalties. And we're just, which has already been throughout the series thus far, has already been detrimental to our result. No, we'll take the penalties. Take these unnecessary penalties. And the Capitals will just, they score on the power play, and they score on the power play, and it's 6-1. Game over, series over, and yet, I mean, when you need goals the most, you take unnecessary penalties. Game over, series over. We can pretty much call it a wrap on that.
I agree.
So, between Dave Haxtell, Captain Claude Giroux, Shane Gostisbehere, I guess our future star defenseman, had a great rookie season. We'll give him that, obviously. Again, in hindsight, there's some positives to take out of this season, obviously. But moving forward, you have to... The higher-ups of this team, the coaches, the premier players in this team, you have to look at this series, games like this series, and you have to not allow things like this again. Train wrecks like this series again. That's the absolute bottom line. See, it's like the Flyers, they were playing good hockey. They were playing cleaner hockey. And then they face a great Washington Capitals team where you can't afford stupid penalties, and you take too many you fall back into your old Flyer ways, with goonish, unnecessary penalties and the whole 9 yards. It's great little tribute there. Great first game back at the Wells Fargo Center since Ed Snyder's passing. Great job. Absolutely spectacular, as Steve Coates would say. That's what we're looking for right there. No, obviously that's pure sarcasm, but geez, you got to look at, and that's just, that's just total unnecessary garbage as far as the Flyers play goes there. I don't know what much more to say, but then again, the Capitals are, they're quite a favorite. We'll just put it that way. As far as teams to possibly win and not to mention, again, they're probably wrap up the Flyers tomorrow at the Wells Fargo Center and have a little extra rest as they will then await their next opponent in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So,
Gotta give you a few days to rest.
Kind of the Golden State Warriors of the NHL. Another team, odds-on favorite. You take the Golden State Warriors of the field. I don't know. Without Steph Curry last night, getting the job done. I mean, geez. Golden State Warriors, I think, well on their way as far as the NBA playoffs go. But we'll wait and see how those playoffs shape up. But again, Washington Cap. I mean, for all intents and purposes, kind of looking like what the Golden State Warriors are to the NBA as far as NHL hockey is concerned. Although when the NHL playoffs, a little more unpredictable, a little more vulnerable, especially the way the Penguins have looked down the stretch. Although their series against the Rangers, it's 1-1, not 2-0. So who knows? And got some interesting playoff series. It's sometimes a little less clear cut in the NHL playoffs early on, a little more unpredictable. So interesting coming down the pike here. And obviously, something we have to talk about on the podcast today, of course, is that the Philadelphia Eagles 2016 schedule has come out this past week.
Oh my God!
Yes, and as we normally do, we're going to I'm going to go down the schedule and make predictions, as many of us do when the schedule comes out. Despite the, obviously, with the Eagles, I mean, we haven't had the draft yet. We still don't necessarily know the running back, who the Eagles, do they get Ezekiel Elliott or, well, some things remain to be seen here. Does Jordan Matthews, does he get moved outside receiver this season? Yada yada. And just who do the Eagles draft that might actually start for him right away? Actually remains to be seen a little bit. But nevertheless, it's always still a thing to do that when the schedule comes out, we go down and we predict it. And obviously it's something we'll do after preseason, before the regular season actually kicks out and kicks off. Kicks out. Kicks out as if I was talking about a pin in wrestling or something.
And no, I wasn't watching wrestling.
Going down the schedule. Of course, one of the things of note, and just the outrage of some of us, I don't know. I mean, it's whatever, I guess. The Eagles have their bye week at week 4, as early as it can be. And, some people have complained about, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, it's got to be at some point in the season. Maybe it's more fitting down the stretch. I don't know how people feel about it. I mean, I guess the thing you can say about, for a new coach, I don't know, it's good to have it early, or new coaching staff or whatever. I don't know. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, if it's too early or not, I don't know. I don't know if at the end of the day it's going to have a huge impact on the record. I mean, I don't think this means that because the bye week's early, the Eagles are going to lose 3 or 4 more games than they would if the bye week was, say, week 9 or 10 or whatever. It is what it is. All right? As far as the schedule is concerned, here's what we have. Eagles opening up week 1, hosting the Browns. Win. All right? New regime kicks off with a win against an easy opponent at home. Week 2, they take on the Chicago Bears. Look like it's going to be a night game. Monday night game, actually. And the Bears, they got Alshon Jeffrey and who else? All right? Bears, nothing special here. I take the Eagles to win. Start out 2-0 against 2 kind of garbage opponents. It's not saying much. But week 3, they host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Loss. And probably not very close. Kind of get knocked back down to earth here a little bit. Eagles are 2-1. Bye week. They come out of the bye and they face the Detroit Lions. No more Calvin Johnson. Team that looks like they need some help. Fresh Eagles team. They go to Detroit and they beat them after an embarrassing loss on Thanksgiving last season. Kind of thanks to Chip Kelly.
Thanks, guys.
No, thank you for not being the coach here anymore. Well, thanks to, I guess, Jeffrey Lurie also for making the move that many people didn't think he was going to make.
You got to open your heart.
All right, so Eagles 3-1. But let's pump the brakes here. They go at Washington next week. They lose a tough division game. Close one. 3-2. And the next week, Vikings come to Philadelphia. Vikings win. Eagles are 3-3. Week after that, the Eagles go to the Cowboys. Eagles lose their third straight, and they're now 3-4. But the next week, they bounce back. They break, a bit of a losing funk here at the New York Giants, where for whatever reason, they tend to get the job done in the Meadowlands against the Giants for whatever reason. Eagles win. Little bit of a desperate situation here. The Eagles move to 4-4 after this. Next week, the Falcons coming to the Eagles. Falcons a bit of a questionable team. Eagles beat the Falcons as they host them. Eagles are 5-4. Eagles go west to the Seahawks. Eagles lose to the Seahawks, 5-5. Packers come to the Eagles. Playoff race is starting to heat up here. This is a primetime game. Now, this is the Packers' third straight road game here, from what I know, but Packers get the win. Eagles are now 5-6. And then the next week, the Eagles must go to the Cincinnati Bengals. 1 o'clock game. Eagles lose to the Bengals. Eagles are now 5-7. But next week, revenge game. They host the Redskins. They beat the Redskins and are now 6-7. Next week, the Eagles go to the Baltimore Ravens, and the Eagles lose against the Baltimore Ravens. So I think to some extent they're going to have a bit of a bounce back season as well. So Eagles lose to the Ravens, and that puts them at 6-8, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2 games left. Giants at the Eagles. Now, believe it or not, this is 4 days later, a Thursday night game for both teams. Primetime game. Oh, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's probably going to be a blackout game if they continue that tradition, which I hope they do, against the Giants like they have the last couple of seasons.
Oh my God!
And the Eagles in a very interesting situation beat the Giants. Get the Giants in a good spot here. They beat the Giants. And to finish out the season, the Eagles host the Dallas Cowboys. And the Eagles beat the Cowboys in a revenge situation. So the Eagles finish 8-8. I don't think they're going to do any better than 8-8. Even some of these spots, maybe some spots where they could get the Packers, say it, third straight. At the end of the day, the Eagles are going to have a couple 3-game losing streaks, I think, in this season. But again, I don't know. This is in pencil right now. Not that I think it's going to drastically change after the draft and after the preseason. But look at it this way. Bradford showed last year, he can stay upright a little more so. That, his ACL, that's, it has fully been repaired. He doesn't have that issue. Granted, he also stayed healthy behind a joke of an offensive line last year. And it'll be marginal. I think the offensive line will be marginally better this year, at the very least. Not to mention, I think that, they got a little more conventional coaching staff here that might fit this personnel better. Unlike last year where it was just a mess. I think overall at wide receiver, they can be a little better than they were last year. Riley Cooper and Miles Austin gone. So I see some, maybe some improvement on offense to some extent. Not like they're going to be, running back. If they get Ezekiel Elliott, then they should be pretty well set with Ryan Matthews and Sproles a little more, part-time. But they'd be pretty well set. And if they don't get Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, they still have Kenyon Barner. They still have, somewhat of a mix of running backs. Nothing to write home about, but overall, satisfactory on offense. Defense, they got Jim Schwartz here. I think he's going to be a good defensive coordinator. I'm not going overboard and saying, he's the next incarnation of Jim Johnson here, but at least for now, I like the hiring of Jim Schwartz. They're kind of going back to the fourth. It's kind of to fit the defensive person a little better. And Fletcher Cox here, kind of going to try to build things around him a little bit. We'll see what they do with cornerbacks in the draft, see how they address that and other positions on defense. But I think year one, 8-8 with what they have, I think is acceptable. I don't know if this is going to win. I don't know if that's enough to win the division. Based off of how I predicted, at least right here on April 19th, over 4 months before the start of the regular season, I see at least the Eagles being in the mix to win this division. This 4-2 division, I don't know. Chances are somebody else finishes 9-7. Between the Redskins and the Giants, despite me having the Eagles beating the Giants twice, I think, 8-8 could win this division, but I'm not going to go there yet. And just for the record, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care what Tom Archer says about the Dallas Cowboys going 10-6 this season. I don't see that. I just like to, I don't know, maybe shed a little insight on the in where if Tony Romo was out last season and the Cowboys without Tony Romo were so good that, or even just better than average had they had Tony Romo, then without Tony Romo and backup court, how do they only go 1-10 or 1-9 or whatever they went? How do they only win one game without Tony Romo? I mean, you should be able to win some games by accident without Tony Romo. And it's not even like Tony Romo's a top 5 quarterback. Maybe he's a top 10. But I just want to know, where that love, where this Cowboys love comes in, that, Tony Romo's going to be back and healthy, and this guy and that's going to be healthy, and they're going to be 10-6. Look, 2014, they had a lightning in a bottle year, where Tony Romo was, for the most part, able to stay healthy throughout the season. By the way, he's not getting any younger. And the offensive line was great, steady. DeMarco Murray had an incredible season for the Cowboys. And it was a lightning in the bottle year. Last year, no more DeMarco Murray, obviously here with the Eagles. Offensive line wasn't as good, and Tony Romo could not stay healthy. And they try to bring him back maybe too soon, and he gets plastered. and basically out for the rest of the season. Wonderful work by the Cowboys. And if the Cowboys were so good, if they would have had Tony Romo, then how, just by missing him, how are they so bad? That's just not right. I mean, I look at Mark Sanchez, and but even when he would have to play for the Eagles, we weren't that bad that, or the Eagles, they weren't that bad without Foles or whoever or this and that. Or say when Vic went down and Foles had a lightning in a bottle year. Or when Foles went down the year after and Sanchez had to come out. The Eagles didn't fall off the face of the earth or anything. They still, here and there, were decent enough to still win some games and to not go 1-10, at least. I don't know. It's just my 2 cents on that. So, I don't know. I just kind of get a little humored by this Dallas Cowboys love sometimes that they get. I don't know. And this hype that they're going to get, or that they are getting already, to go 10-6. I don't think anybody in this division is going 10-6, let alone the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles, again, I'm not demanding or expecting that they win the division 8-8. Again, it might be one of these situational things again. Well, like it could have been last year, although the Eagles, we saw what happened when they came out flat against the Washington Redskins at home. And that was pretty much the end of the Chip Kelly era as we knew it. I see, again, 8-8, a step in the right direction. Even if they go 7-9, I mean, year one here for Doug Peterson. Not expecting anything special out of this season. But 8-8, a bit of a step in the right direction. Maybe they build off of that the next year. Maybe next year they go 10-6. You add a player here and there. You build from the ground up a little bit. You build through the draft, I think, is the kind of the moral of the story here. And we'll see where it goes. But nevertheless, this is different. Yeah, this is a different year. The last couple years, we came into the season, even at this time right here, where the schedule comes out, and we see 10 wins, 11 wins, whatever these early schedule picks when they come out, and yeah, this is a little different. Where we get a new regime, we kind of scale back a little bit, and we kind of wait and see mode, and kind of give a little due diligence to the new regime, and we look at things honestly. I feel like most of us come up with 8-8 in that range. I'm not saying most of us, but many of us. The 7-9, 8-8, 9-7 range. What do you think? Have you gone down the schedule yet? What do you think? How do you think the Eagles will finish this year? And I mean, do you think it'll be depending what you come up with, do you think that it will be enough to maybe win the division, maybe get, an outside chance getting a wild card spot, depending how the rest of the division does? Leave your thoughts right here in this video, or posting of the video, or on the channel. Whatever suits you, right here for the Tyler Werner Show. Thanks for tuning as always. We got the NFL draft coming up shortly. Just a matter of days. So as we approach that, we're going to start talking about the draft and where the Eagles might go. And whether or not maybe they move up to get Carson Wentz. We'll see. Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. Links right here in the video. Thanks for tuning in as always. We'll talk to you next time on the Tyler Werner Show. Attention parents. Is your under 18-year-old daughter being cyberstalked by a man who identifies themselves as a grown adult male?
I want to meet you and fool around. Are you up to meeting tonight, hon? I think I would like to shower with you. We can do it in the shower, too.
If so, you need to contact Chris Hansen and Company to bust these online cyberstalkers.
How are you tonight? Why don't you have a seat there and get comfortable for that?
I guess you're going to tell me next that this is the very first time you've done something like this.
Chris Hansen and the Dateline crew will take care of it. Contact us, and we will put an end to the cyber stalking that your daughter is experiencing.
Well, there's something you got to know. I am Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on computer predators.
Busted! I'll have some skirt steak, some brisket, little piece of that New York steak, a couple of them steak fingers, and a burger.
You've known for a long time that you are going to have to get real about fat or stay real fat. It didn't get that way by accident or by some outsider's doing.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too. Is there any chicken fried steak left?
Your weight just keeps creeping up or maybe even shooting sky high.
3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee.
You have a decision to make. You know it, and so do I.
Yes, all right.
You need prescription diet pills or other diet aids to lose weight.
#1 box office attraction, #1 WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're in the future of interior decorator.
Ellie, we're done.